in this section of the tutorial, I'm going to teach you step by step the cube cards stack as taught on my release cube cards. Now, I use this all of the time, and in fact, there's other products on the market that require a stack, and I'll use this stack with those because I think it's just really simple to do and really easy to remember. So this is what the stack looks like, and I hope you'll agree that the cube looks really nice and mixed, but in fact I'm only 8 moves away from getting back to my solved cube. And that is made up of using the 2-1-1-2 move twice. So 2-1-1-2, I'm now 4 moves away, and I can do that again back to my solved cube. Now, I can't take credit for this method. This is the work of the Japanese magician Takami's Usui, and he released a DVD called The Cube where he detailed a number of different one-handed techniques in order to do just that. And I definitely recommend having a look at that because he's got some other great ideas and great ways to solve the cube on that project as well. If you stick his name into Google, you'll also find plenty of other releases that he's put out, as well as a couple of Penguin lectures, which have got hours worth of content, and he just crams in so many ideas and tips to do with the cube. I definitely think that's essential watching. Now, this mix really underpins a lot of the stuff that is on this project along with the 4-4-6 mix. So I definitely recommend you spend the time to learn this properly. Now, you might be thinking at this point, well, I've learned a different variation of this mix. And that's fine. You can use that in this project. The teachings and when I go through step by step are going to be using the 2-1-1-2 mix. But that doesn't mean you can't adapt what you do already to the stuff that's on the project. Now, in my opinion, I think even if you have learned something else, it's worth spending the time and learning the 2-1-1-2 mix, which isn't going to take you very long at all, because I just think it's the easiest and most effective version out there. So let's go on and we'll have a look at how to perform this step by step. Okay, so this is the cube cards stack, and I'm sure you'll agree this looks really nice and mixed, but in fact the cube is only 8 moves away from being solved, and that 8 moves consist of using Takami's 2-1-1-2 move repeated twice. So if I do 2-1-1-2, 2-1-1-2, I'm going to get back to my solved cube. Now, what's really nice about this is it's exactly the same moves that get you into the mix as get you out of the mix. And you'll notice that I can either do this with 2 hands, or I could do this one-handed as well, which makes this really versatile. So let's have a look at each of those steps in detail. Okay, so with the white facing and the red on top, my thumb is going to be placed just in between these 2 cubelets here, and my middle finger is going to be placed on the back of this bar. Now, it's worth pointing out at this stage that this bar never actually gets mixed the entire time. So if I put my fingers like this, and I'm just going to do my cube card stack and rotate here, and you'll see this bar is still in place. It's not been mixed. So let's just get back to my starting position. So the first move is going to be a small U move. It's a 2-layer move. So with my thumb in between these 2 cubelets and my middle finger on this back bottom right cublet, I'm just going to use my index finger to perform a small U move. Now, it's called a small U because a normal U would just be 1 layer, but a small U is 2 layers like that. So I would suggest practicing holding the cube in this position and then just performing that move over and over again until you're confident that you can keep the cube still and move the layers around. once you've got that down, we'll move on to the next stage. So the second move is going to be an L prime move. So this is the left hand layer and it's going to be going anti-clockwise, which is why it's called an L prime. So it's going to be that. Now, what I suggest is to practice this is holding the cube in the same position. This time you're going to be using your ring finger and it's going to be connecting on the back of the left hand layer and it's just going to be pushing forward to rotate that layer up like that. So now you've got those two moves. The way that you can start practicing this is to do your 2 layers 4 times and then your left hand layer 4 times to get back to the solved cube. And you can just keep doing this until you've got those 2 moves nice and smooth. So the third move is going to be an easy one for you now you've done the small U move, because this time we're just going to be performing a U, which is just the upper layer on top that's going to be going round clockwise. Now, one thing I will mention is when you come to perform the 1 move, so let's just do the 2, 1 that we've already learned. My thumb at this point is going to release pressure from here and it's going to pivot here a little bit, and the pad is just going to move over into this position. So when I use my index finger to perform the 1 layer U move, it doesn't accidentally move those 2 layers. So let's just reverse back. So the way that I practice this is, as before, do those 2 layers, and then you're going to move your thumb to here to do the 1 layer. So just to go through that again, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then you're just going to re-grip and do 1, 1, 1, 1. If you've got that, you're then onto the 4th and final stage. Okay, so the 4th move is going to be a small L prime. So this time we're going to be moving those 2 layers on the left hand side anti-clockwise like that. And you'll see I'm using my ring finger again to move those 2 layers. So it's worth starting just by practicing doing that move first, but just note that my thumb has now moved all the way over onto this layer to give clearance for those 2 layers to move. So let's have a go at doing all those 4 moves together without actually mixing the cube. So 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. My thumb re-grips. 1, 1, 1, 1. My thumb is going to move again slightly to do 2, 2, 2, 2. So that is a really good way to practice without actually mixing the cube up. When you're confident with all of those, you can then string them all together and practice doing the 4 moves. That's then going to get you into cube cards, and I'm going to do those again to undo. So this bar that I mentioned earlier that doesn't move, this is going to be where you're going to rotate and pivot the cube. So let's just get back into my cube cards mix. Now, what's going to happen in order for me to do this again is we're going to pivot on this bar. So we're going to rotate like that. So this bar is still staying on the bottom left hand side, but it's just rotating round. So rather than having the white cubelet facing me, it's going to be the yellow. And this is going to be my starting position then to perform exactly the same moves to get me back to my solved cube. Now, the other really interesting thing about this move is because it's mirrored, so you're doing 2, 1 and then 1, 2, it makes it that this is cyclical. And what I mean by that is you can carry on doing the 2, 1, 1, 2 move 18 times and it's going to take you back to the solved cube. So this is a really nice way to practice doing this one-handed. So if I do 2, 1, 1, 2, and if I just keep doing this, when I get to do it, when I've done it 9 times, the cube is going to look solved apart from 2 pieces like this. So I'm halfway through now, and if I carry on another 9 times, this is going to take me back to my solved cube, just like that. Okay, so that's a really nice way to practice. Now, even if you do make a mistake, then I would suggest I'm just going to grab a different cube here quickly, even if it's in a different mix. So let me just give this mix up. Let's imagine I have made a mistake. Well, it doesn't really matter because you can still practice doing these moves to try and get them down as muscle memory without actually getting back to solved. So even if you do mess it up, I would suggest just carrying on practicing doing these moves, because that's going to really help you. So as I've mentioned previously, you can do this mix two-handed. Now, this is the way that I would suggest mixing the cube, particularly if you're going to do it in front of your audience, because you do not want to let them know that you're able to mix the cube one-handed. So let's get back to my start position. So I've got white on the face and red on top, and my right hand is going to be gripping the cube in exactly the same way, but my left hand, my thumb is going to be on the bottom with my fingers on top of the left hand layer. So I'm going to do 2, 1, 1, 2, and then again 2. Notice that I'm not gripping on the top here. 1, 1, and then I'm going to extend my fingers out a little bit at the back to do 2. Now, the other really key move that you're going to want to learn is the one-handed rotation. Now, this is going to become important because when we get into our cube cards mix, rather than you rotating the cube like this, you can simply do it in one hand. And back into the mix, and then out of the mix. Now, in order to do this, you're going to be in your starting position, and once you've done your mix, your index finger is going to come across your thumb. It's going to grip on the cube whilst your thumb releases pressure. You're then going to rotate these in between your fingers, and your thumb's going to come back across and re-grip the cube like that. So let's just do that again. I'm now 4 moves away because I've got my block here and my block here. So I can do my 2 on 1 2 move to get me back to my start position. So I would suggest just starting with a solved cube and just doing this rotation move like that. Now, it might be worth doing this over a bed or a carpet or something, because you may drop this the first few times, and I find trying to do it slowly is actually harder than just doing it quickly like this. Now, if you've been watching this tutorial and thinking, but I am left-handed, well, don't fret, because you can still do this mix, though it's going to be slightly different. So you'll notice when I'm doing my right hand, I'm doing my 2 moves, so these 2 layers are moving. So if you're left-handed, your start position is going to be slightly different, because you're going to want white on the face and blue on top. So you're also going to do a 2 move, but you're going to be performing the 2 move from the bottom like that, and then 1, 1, 2. So again, 2, 1, 1, 2, and that is going to get you back into the cube cards stack. But just remembering that you're going to start from this position rather than right-handed being here. You're just going to rotate the cube to this start position so that you can do your 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2 to get back to your solved cube. So play around with that and you'll be able to apply that then to all of the other parts and routines used in this project. So there is actually an advanced algorithm to get into the cube card stack without performing any rotations. Now the starting position is slightly different because we're going to want green on the face and orange on top. Now an easy way to remember this is to remember the word go, because we've got G for green and O for orange. Now the mix looks like this, and you'll see it didn't require me to rotate the cube at all, and I can get back to my solved cube. So let's have a look at the steps required to get into that mix. So again, with the green on the face and the orange on top, we're going to do a U, R prime, D, L prime, B, U prime, F, D prime. Let's have another go at that again. So go, green, orange, U, R prime, D, L prime, B, U prime, F, D prime to get me into my cube cards stack. Now, the more you practice this, the faster and more fluid you're going to get, and you'll start to feel the moves connect together. So you'll see from me doing it, it sort of just flows around each side, and it's really easy to do. Once you've had a play around, you'll feel these moves just flow together so you can get straight into that stack. So if you like the look of that and you think this would be a nice thing to learn, then feel free to do so. It's not essential, but I do use it myself, and I really like the fact that I'm doing different moves than what I'm going to be doing to when I solve the cube.